Welcome to T.O.L Studios, and today in Lesson 9, I'm going to just finish up. There's 3 scales I hadn't shown you. 2 were the flat keys from the last lesson that we've been doing, so there's 2 more of those left. And then there was 1 sharp key I kind of left out because I wanted to show it here when I'll explain here in a second how you can kind of see it as either a flat key or a sharp key. So same concept. These scales are coming from the whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half. And go back, revisit that in the previous lessons if you're not familiar with that. And same thing for the finger technique. As I said before, I'm trying to keep this kind of basic, so I'll put another lesson where I really talk about like which finger for sure. For the most part, I've always talked about right hand going 1, 2, 3, curl under, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're doing your left hand, then you're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you're going to cross over. Okay, and then when you go backwards, you're just reversing 1, 2, 3, under with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same thing if I was on the right hand, then it's going to be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cross over. That's why they're kind of the opposite. Okay. Then I'd said some of those scales you might sometimes, instead of starting with your thumb, maybe start with your second finger. I will save that for another lesson. Like I said, I'm trying to keep this just a little basic, but I'll explain that better. Okay, so I finished the last lesson off with the A flat scale. Now I'm going to show you a D flat scale. So again, I'm just going to kind of do it here, but if I'm hitting this note, that could be a C raised up to a C sharp. So I'm going to tell you, sometimes you will see this scale called a C sharp major scale. I'm just used to playing along with horn instruments, and from playing horns a little bit, you tend to call it a flat key. It's the same note, but we're going to call it a flat. So if that's a D, then that's why I'm saying it's a D flat. Now the same principle is going to apply if I'm on a D flat. Even though it's a flat, we're using the letter D. So E has to come next, although we could flat it or sharp it. In this case, I'm going to tell you it's going to be a flat because we're in a flat key. But you always got to represent every letter. So that's how you're going to know like when to call it, like I said, not an F sharp, but maybe a G flat. So if we're on D flat, we got to go up a whole step. So since we're on the black key, we're going to skip the white key, go to the black key, or we skip the key in the middle. So D flat. So like I was just saying, E, some kind of an E has to come next because it's the next letter after D. So D flat, E flat, there's your whole step because I said we'd go up 2 keys, skip this one. So D flat, E flat, or whole step. Then we need to go to, if we're on the letter E and E flat, we need the letter F next. We got to go another whole step because we went 1 whole step. So skip this, it's going to put us here. So if we had D flat, E flat, this one's just F. Okay, D flat, E flat, F, whole step, whole step. Okay, now we've got to do a half step. We're on the letter F. That's why I'm not going to call this F sharp because there's my half step. We're going to call it a G flat. That way we've got all the letters, D for D flat, E for the E flat, E for E flat, then your F, G flat, and there's your half step. Now we've got to do 3 whole steps. So we're going to skip and go here. We're on the letter G for G flat here. So that makes this an A flat. There's our whole step. We got 2 more whole steps. A flat, skip, B flat. Okay, 1 more whole step. So if I'm on B flat, I'm using the letter B. So I've got to get to a C. B flat, skip, puts me here. That's the last whole step, so that's to a C. And then we finish with our half step, which lets me finish not on a C sharp, a D flat. So again, that gives us D flat to E flat, there's a whole step. E flat to F, that's a whole step. Our first half step gives us F to G flat. G flat to A flat, and there's one whole step, so we got 2 more to go. A flat to B flat, B flat to C. Lets us finish with our half step. Okay, now if I start, there's my D flat. If I did my right hand, same thing, I'd put my first finger, second finger on the E flat, third finger sets my thumb up on the G flat. So I'm still kind of doing that same finger pattern. I'll do this again a little slower, but now this is one sometimes you might change instead of starting with this, maybe something like that. And I'll kind of explain that in another lesson. But you can kind of tell most of the keys you can do this. So 1, 2, 3 on the F, D flat, E flat, F. That puts me on G flat, A flat, B flat, C, and then your pinky for your D flat. Then just D flat. Now normally you wouldn't raise your hand, but I'm just trying to pull it out so you can see. D flat, C, B flat, A flat. There's your G flat. Now see, and this kind of feels a little weird, but your F, and puts E flat. Okay, so if I did that coming, if I went back up, now obviously do these slow so you can keep all the right fingers, and then eventually, kind of like I've talked about in the previous videos, and then left hand, I'm just going to do it on this D flat. Start with the pinky on the D flat, fourth finger on the E flat, my F with the third, second finger on the G flat, A flat with the thumb, cross over from my third finger to B flat, C's the second finger, finish with my thumb on D flat. Backwards, thumb on D flat, C is your second finger, B flat with the third, I crossed under it to the A flat with my thumb, G flat, F, E flat, D flat. Okay, now just again seeing that coming down, D flat with the thumb, C, there's my third finger on B flat, crossing under to the A flat, G flat, F with the third finger. Same thing, eventually, do these slow again, but eventually you kind of get them going, then eventually you work on putting all the fingers together, and you just do them over and over and just repeating them, okay? So that's a D flat major scale. Again, we could call that, it is D flat. We could also say a C sharp scale. Then we would just see it as C sharp, whole step. Still going to be the same notes. It's just instead of D flat, it's C sharp. Instead of E flat, it's D sharp. See, and then I went the letters in order. C sharp, meaning C. So D's got to come next. In this case, we won't call it E flat. We'd call it D sharp. Okay, then this is the weird one. If I have an E right here, I had to skip it and go to there. So that means I sharped the E. And I know it's not a black key, but the E still went up one. That way I'm going whole step, C sharp, D sharp, E sharp. Then this would be, even though we had it earlier as G flat, now we're going to call it F sharp. So it gives us C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp. Now I gotta go a whole step, G sharp, a whole step, A sharp. So I gotta go one more whole step. So we're on A sharp, has to be a B next. B raised up, sharped. So that's not a C in this case because B still gotta come next. And we had to do a whole step. So if we had C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp to G sharp, G sharp to A sharp. So since we're on A sharp to B sharp, then that puts us on half step to C sharp. So again, I could say that, but the finger pattern's still the same. That'd just be C sharp, D sharp, E sharp. So that's all it changes. So whether you decide to call it a flat key or sharp key, obviously if you're reading the music, then yes, it's going to look a little different because we're going to do the flat signs instead of the pound sign or the number sign. A lot of times I tell my students the tic-tac-toe box. That's your sharp symbol. The one that kind of looks like a lowercase b, but it's kind of like a half a heart right there. It goes up a little, but it's a line, but it kind of looks like a lowercase b. That's your flat symbol. That's what's different. You just got to know how to read that on paper, but when we're doing it by ear and seeing it, it's the same thing. So it just depends which scale. As I said earlier, I tend to call it a D flat scale, seeing it as D flat. Either way, you're going to eventually get these two weird spots where sometimes you have to see this as a C flat or a B sharp, and sometimes an E sharp or an F flat. Okay, so that was a D flat scale. Now we're going to look at G flat scale. So if I did it, I'll just do it with the left hand first, but G flat, up a whole step to A flat. So that's one whole step. A flat to B flat, that's my second whole step. So I'm on B, my B flat, G flat, A flat, B flat. C comes next, but I go in whole step, whole step. I've got to go a half step from this, which is going to put me right here because it goes up one. So in this case, that's not going to be a B because we already used a letter B here for B flat, G flat, A flat, B flat. So this is going to be a C flat. G flat, A flat, B flat, C flat. Whole step, half step. So we're C flat. We gotta go a whole step. Puts me on a D flat because I'm already on C for C flat. D flat. D flat to E flat, or whole step, whole step, whole step. So that's going to just be an F. And then I'm on my half step to G flat. Okay, so it gives me a G flat, A flat, B flat, C flat. Then you're going to cross over is what I tell you to do. So you got your, this is another one you'll probably do different fingers. G flat, A flat, B flat, C flat, just for this reason. D flat, cross over, which you could, but E flat, F, D. Then backwards, that's my, or I said D, sorry, G flat, F, E flat, that's put me on a D flat, C flat, B flat, A flat. Okay, if I did it with my right hand, I'm just doing the same thing to my C flat. Okay, so if I did that again, thumb on G flat, A flat with the second finger. And I've got my third finger on the B flat, thumb now on C flat, D flat, second finger, third finger E flat, fourth finger F, pinky on the G flat, F. I'm just going backwards. Third finger E flat, D flat. So C flat with the thumb, cross over to the B flat with the third finger, A flat, second finger, finish. You're putting them together, the same kind of thing. You're training this finger, so if these are the fingers you're using, I'm still doing for the left hand, thumb, second finger, third finger, cross under, thumb, second finger, third finger, fourth, and then my pinky. If I said that for the right hand, same thing. One finger, two finger, three finger, curl under with my thumb, second finger, third finger, fourth finger, fifth, fourth, third, second, first, cross over, third, second finger, thumb. Okay? Now that's a G flat scale. Now I saved the last one. The last one was going to be a B scale. Or sorry, let me say this actually too. Same thing if we call that a G flat, then we also could call that an F sharp. And the same weird thing when I talk about a C sharp and a D flat, we could do the same exact thing here. So I tend to call this a G flat scale, again, because I'm used to playing along with horn instruments, and for the type of music I play, it's written that way more. But there are some cases I've seen songs call it an F sharp, then it's still the same thing, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, and then this would just be a B. Then now this would be a C sharp to a D sharp, and that's why this weird one would be an E sharp, because we had to do that whole step. So in this case, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, then B. So F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp. So E has to come next, but we can't go there. It's a half step. So same scale. That's why we're going the same note. But in this case, we're not going to call it F. We'll call it E sharp. So we can end on an F sharp. Or you're calling it G flat, A flat, B flat, and then you got to call this C flat, D flat, E flat. Then in this case, it's just an F, and then a G flat. Okay? The last scale that I never showed from the sharp keys, it's a B scale. So when you start on your B, you're going up a whole step to a C sharp. So there was my whole step. Then another whole step. So we got a B, C sharp to a D sharp, then a E. Okay, and that gave me a whole step, half step. B, C sharp, D sharp, E. Then I'm going to go up a whole step to an F sharp, then up a whole step to G sharp to another whole step, A sharp, finish on a B. Okay, so left hand I would be going 5 or on the B, 4 on the C sharp, D sharp would be my third, E would be the second finger, F sharp my thumb, cross over for G sharp with my third finger, A sharp second finger, B with the thumb, second finger, third finger, crossing under like I did there with the thumb. So the second finger's going to E, and then the D sharp's the third finger, C sharp 4. Okay, if I'm doing my right hand, I'm going thumb, second finger, third finger, cross under with the thumb on E. F sharp's going to be 2, G sharp 3, A sharp 4, pinky's on the B. I go backwards, pinky, fourth finger on the A sharp, the G sharp is going to be my third finger, F sharp second, E thumb, the D sharp my third finger, C sharp. Okay, seeing that one again. And I'm just doing the same thing backwards, but that's why I cross over. Okay, and the same thing, eventually you're putting those together, like I've talked about in the last video, doing it slow. And again, for the most part, as you see me doing almost every one of these scales, you can do the 1, 2, 3, under, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just reverse on the way back, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cross over, 3, 2, 1. If you're doing your left hand, going up the scale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cross over with your third finger, second thumb, reverse, thumb, 2, 3, curl under, thumb, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just remember there's a couple of these scales because of the, when you add too many black keys where you might start with your second finger or possibly your third. Okay. So anyway, that's all the major scales. A couple of those, like I said, we can call sharps or flats, kind of a double name. But I'll kind of explain this more in another lesson. Again, getting more in depth with scales. So that I wanted to show all the scales first. For those of you that have fought through this, thank you so much. You'll thank yourself later. The thing I'm going to start showing the next lesson, and we're going to go back to key of C, that good old scale. But I'm going to just start showing you how to do chords with both hands, so that way you can kind of see, like, and I'll kind of get into this even more in depth. I'm just going to kind of just show you a real easy way of seeing chords, and I'll explain these more, and then the same thing with your left hand. Okay, and I'll show you how you can kind of do them together. But then that way, if you go to another scale, like a G scale, same thing. I'll show you how to do the chords with that, and I'll kind of start showing just an easy way of seeing it. Then upcoming lessons, I'll put some of the theory talk in there, but I'll show you an easy way of seeing it first, and then I'll kind of explain what the theory is telling you. Have some fun with this. Sit on those scales. Make sure you know them, at least good enough to kind of visualize it. If I'm confusing you on some of the flats and sharps, go back and review. We'll see you on the next lesson.